Good morning, Heaven Bound family, and all who may be listening. This is Pastor Larry with a moment in the Word. And before I start, let me make a correction. I think I said yesterday that Tuesday was the 3rd. Actually, yesterday was the 2nd, and today is the 3rd. And so we're going to be looking at Wednesday the 3rd today, and we're going to go to chapter 16. The book of Revelations, you remember we said back in chapter 1, verse 19, is divided into 3 parts. Chapter 1, the things that John has saw. Chapter 2 and 3, the church age, the things that are. And then chapter 4, down all the way down through 22, is things which shall be hereafter. The hereafter is divided into 3 parts. We could say, beginning in chapter 6, we have the 7 seals are announced. Actually, a 7-seal book is announced in chapter 5. Jesus begins to open the 7 seals in chapter 6, and we go through the first 6 seals. Chapter 7 is kind of parentheses. Chapter 8, the 7th seal pronounces 7 trumpets that's going to sound, and begin in chapter 8. And in chapter 8 to chapter 11, verse 15, I believe it is, the 7th trumpet will sound. And everything that happens between chapter 8 and chapter 16, or chapter 15, we could say, has to do with the 7 trumpets. And now then in chapter 15, verse 1, we're introduced to the 7 vials or 7 bowls of the wrath of God that's going to be poured out upon the earth. Verse 1 of chapter 15 just introduces us, but we don't have the results of them until we get to chapter 16. And that's what we're going to look at today is chapter 16. Notice he says here, and I heard a great voice out of the temple saying to the 7 angels, go your way and pour out the vials of the wrath of God upon the earth. Now these 7 angels, if you look at chapter 15, verse 1, I saw another sign in heaven, great and marvelous, 7 angels having the 7 last plagues. For in them is filled up the wrath of God. So these 7 angels in 15:1 and 16:1 is one and the same. 7 angels that are going to pour out upon the earth God's final, God's full wrath upon the people of the earth, especially those who have taken the mark of the beast or who has worshipped his image. Here, beginning in verse 2, we have a list of the 7 vials. Some commentators like to make these symbolic instead of literal. However, I believe that the Bible gives us evidence to the fact that they are literal. For example, if we were to look at the first vial, the boils here, literally, boils was poured out upon the Egyptians. It was the 6th plague that was upon Egypt. When we look at the 3rd, the blood on the rivers there is the first plague that Moses struck the Nile River, and it turned to blood, and the fishes and things died. If we look at the 5th, darkness came up on the kingdom of the beast, and it was such a darkness that it happened back in Egypt. It was the 9th plague of Egypt. And it was so intense that the people in Moses' day didn't move for 3 days because they couldn't see nothing. And the darkness is going to be so great upon the earth during this 5th vial here, the darkness, that it's going to cause the people to, well, let's just read it to you. Let's just go down there. But let me, one of them I wanted to finish is here, and that is there that the 7th great vial is also the 7th plague upon the Egyptians. So as they were literal in the days of Moses, then there's no reason for us to believe that these are not literal plagues that are going to come upon the earth, especially upon those who have taken the mark of the beast or worshipped his image. Verse 2 says, and the first went and poured out his vial upon the earth, and there fell a noisome and grievous sore upon the men which had the mark of the beast, and upon them which worshipped his image. Some have said that these were boils, as it was in Egypt, came upon the people. A boil, someone has said, is the outward appearance of an inward corruption. And what these boils are, they're grievous sores that is poured out upon all of those who worship the beast or take his image. And they're just merely a visible show of the corruptness of the heart inside as they reject God, as they take the mark of the beast. Then in verse 3 it says, let me just read verse 2. It says, and the first went and poured out his vial upon the earth, and there fell a noisome and grievous sore upon the men which had the mark of the beast, and upon them which worshipped his image. Verse 3, and the second angel poured out his vial upon the sea, and it became as the blood of a dead man, and every living soul died in it. If you go back to chapter 8, the second plague that was poured upon the people, the second trumpet was a mountain light, probably no doubt a meteor fell into the sea, and a third of the sea was destroyed. A third of all the sea life was destroyed. A third of all the ships was destroyed. But in this, that was anticipatory of what is going to happen when it actually happens. Not just a third of the sea, but the entire sea is going to be destroyed. It's going to be turned to blood. It says, and the second angel poured out his vial upon the sea, and it became as the blood of a dead man, and every living and soul died in the sea. The third vial is, and the third angel poured out his vial upon the rivers and fountains of water, and they became blood. Again, the third trumpet, wormwood was cast into the freshwater streams, and they became bitter, and many died because of it. Well, here it's going to be ever more intense. Everything that's happened is going to be intensified. That is, everything that happened with the seven trumpets is going to be intensified with the seven vials here. Verse 5, and I heard the angel of the waters say, thou art righteous, O Lord, thou art, and was, and shall be, because thou hast judged thus. For they have shed the blood of saints and prophets, and thou hast given them blood to drink, for they are worthy. A numerous host we'll find in Revelation chapter 20 are those who were killed, beheaded, starved to death, and so forth by these wicked who took the mark of the beast, the 10 federated kings, and so forth. But now then, because they have shed innocent blood, and I think of America today, who shed the innocent blood of so many aborted children, how guilty we will stand before God. Personally, I believe America will be destroyed, or at least it will be so economically and militarily powerless that it's not a force by the time the tribulation period begins. He says here that the angel is going to stop after this third or the plague is poured out upon the rivers there, and is going to show that God is justified. Agent Rogers says every time he preaches this, invariably he will get a call from somebody who will say, Agent Rogers, you preach what God is going to do. I can't imagine a good and just and loving God being so cruel to the people of the earth during the tribulation. And his response is John's response here. God is justified because what he is doing to these people of the earth is the very thing that they had done to the righteous who refused to take the mark. Verse 7 says, and I heard another out of heaven say, even so, Lord God Almighty, true and righteous are thy judgments. God never makes a mistake, and God never judges unrighteously. Whatever God chooses to do, these that he is pouring out the vials of his wrath upon are deserving of this that they get. And I don't know that I'm going to get through all of this. I'm already down to the 12 minutes I tried to allot myself. Let's do the fourth one and we will bring it to a close. And the fourth angel poured out his vial upon the sun, and power was given unto him to scorch men with fire. And men were scorched with great heat, and blasphemed the name of God, which had power over these plagues. And they repented not to give him glory. In other words, if you've ever been in the desert on a 110-day, that's just a slight of what is going to happen. Some say, how's it going to happen? God created the heavens and the earth, created the sun, put the sun where he put it, put the earth where he put it, and God is able to move it a little bit closer if he chooses to. I'm not saying that's the way God's going to do it. I'm just simply saying God says he's going to do it, he's going to do it. And so along with the boils and having to drink blood for water, now then they're going to be scorched. I believe it was David Jeremiah said, if you've ever really experienced an intensified sunburn, well, then multiply that several times over. And that's what's happened here during this fourth plague here. We're going to stop here. We'll pick up with the fifth plague in the morning and finish up chapter 16. Again, it's Wednesday. Let me encourage you to go out to God's house tonight and worship the Lord. Fellowship with his people. It'll bless them. It'll bless God, and you'll be blessed. Have a wonderful Wednesday. Prepare for the service tonight, and then go and enjoy it. God bless you.